Good morning, everyone. Morning. How many of you guys were there at yesterday's celebration event? Wow, almost all of you. I'm impressed with the turnout today. Thank you, guys. My name is Sandeep Dio. I'm program manager in Windows and Devices Group. And today we're going to talk about Windows Analytics Update Compliance and learn how you can use Update Compliance to keep your devices secure and up to date. So update compliance, it's basically we have a simple concept here to keep devices secure and reliable as far as possible. We know you need to keep your devices up to date. And keeping them up to date is sort of foundational to your IT, not only to give your users the best productivity, but also to give them the best security experience. And the way we plan to do that is to drive those foundational values with these insights that will give you not only reporting information on how your devices are doing in your environment, but also giving you actionable data. So you must have heard this a lot in presentations throughout this week. We are in this era of digital transformation. Users, the workplace is changing from desktops in office to devices in different places. Also, customers are using multiple devices. So we want to make sure as you start to modernize your IT, we provide you with the right set of tools and capabilities to help you along that way. Again, this is also a classic chart we've used throughout this week. The differences between traditional IT and modern IT. Those days when customers used to have a single device, it used to be a desktop in the office. You would sign off at the end of the day, go home, and be good with it. But the days have changed, right? We have multiple devices in the office, multiple devices at home. We use them to connect to our work. And we need to make sure that those devices are kept secure and up to date. Again, we know that the transformation from traditional IT to modern IT is not overnight. It's not like a either or. We do acknowledge that it is going to be, there is going to be a coexistence period where you'll have devices being managed both in the traditional way as well as in the modern way. Sure, you must have heard about the announcements around co-management, which is the scenario where devices will be joined with both AD as well as AAD, and will be managed using both Config Manager as well as Microsoft Intune. So towards this bridge, data-driven insights really become a key and core ingredient for our customers to move from traditional to modern IT, or to sort of realize this transition. Before we get into the update compliance demo and the details, I wanted to sort of give you a quick background on what is Windows Analytics. So it is a cloud-based solution. It is driven off of telemetry data that we have information about Windows. And then we use that data and process that information in the cloud so that we can present you with some rich, actionable data that you can then reason on. And lastly, it is built on top of an existing operations management and suite log and analytics platform. It is a rich platform that provides us with a good user interface, as well as a rich query language where you can then pretty much look at your data, run some queries, pull the data, import it, and do other valuable things that you may want to do with that data. So as part of the Windows Analytics suite, we have 3 solutions today. The first one is called Upgrade Readiness. That solution is already GA. And the focus for that solution is around allowing you to plan your upgrades from Win 7, Win 8 to Windows 10, or even going from one version of Windows 10 to another. And the focus there is to provide you with insights around compatibility blockers if you have in your environment around your applications, drivers, devices, and so on. The next one, which we're going to talk today, is called Update Compliance, which again, the concept here is to give you a holistic view of your update and anti-malware compliance, and allow you to proactively identify issues, resolve them, and get your devices secure and up to date. That solution is in preview today, and it will GA next month. Similarly, we have device health, which is also in preview. And the focus there is around allowing you to reduce support costs for your organizations, where we're giving you proactive information on end user impacting issues around like OS reliability, if your customers or users are having crashes, if there are any driver-induced crashes, what are the reasons, and so you can take corrective action and get them more productive. That solution will also GA later next month. So both update compliance and device health will be in GA. Here's a quick data flow for how things work end-to-end. And the concept here is we today use these signals and this data for almost more than 500 million of our consumer devices that are running Windows 10. And this is like signals that we use to improve the quality of our product, to make sure that those devices in the market are kept secure and up to date. And then the rationale here was, why not we use the same insights and the same signals and provide you with valuable data for your organization, for your users. Again, we have the client that is actually uploading data to our service, where all the processing and all the intelligence is happening. And then we are pushing that data into our OMS logs and analytics workspace that you create for your tenant. And then you also have the control on what levels of telemetry do you want to enable for your devices, and basically the insights light up based on what you enable. There is a session right after this, which Zach is going to cover on the upgrade readiness. So if you're also interested on the other solution that is already GA, feel free to attend that. It's just next door. So some of the principles we have for update compliance, it's meant to give you, again, a holistic review. It's not just for devices that are connected to the cloud. If you have devices that are managed using your on-prem infrastructure, we want to make sure you're getting a holistic view of your entire environment when it comes to knowing the status of the quality updates. That's where the security update compliance come into picture. The status of your feature currency, how are you moving along with the Windows as a service deploying cadence, and anti-malware compliance, which is a rich key part of your assessment for security. Then the other principle is around, we want to make sure when there are devices that are stuck and not moving forward, we give you enough information so you can identify the issues and then remediate those issues. Windows Update for Business is another solution we have for our customers who can start to realize the simplistic and the modern management approach for Windows 10. So if you're using Windows Update for Business as your solution for servicing and deploying Windows 10, you can also use this solution for your reporting and compliance and insights needs. Integration with management tools, we're also working with our Microsoft Intune team to sort of bring these insights into the Intune console experience, so sort of you get this all within a single pane of glass. And then lastly, it's about reducing the infrastructure costs for you guys, so you don't have to maintain or deploy any infrastructure on-prem, and you can just realize all these benefits that you're getting from our cloud-based solutions. Just quick high-level overview here. And as I go into the demo, we'll cover each one of these areas. But it shows sort of what information the client is sending to our cloud. At a very high level, we're getting the commercial ID, which is a unique GUID that we assign for you guys. You guys configure your devices, that information gets sent. We have information on the update configuration about the device, computer metadata, and information on the Windows Defender antivirus data. And then that data then goes through our engine. We process it. We make sure it's available to you in your workspace. And that's how then you get access to it through the OMS portal. That said, I'm going to get into the demo. So this is when you get to the OMS dashboard, and this is assuming you have added the solution. And I'm going to walk you through, the onboarding process, all the configurations, after we're done with getting through the actual solution itself. and I'll make sure we cover everything in detail so you're very clear on the whole process. So this is the sort of the OMS dashboard where you see all the solutions that you have added to your workspace. This one is the update compliance. The main tile is showing you how many devices do you have active in your environment. This is looking at monthly active devices, so it's a count of devices that are active or have sent us a heartbeat over the last 28 days. So in this demo, you see the total count is 5K, and then there are devices that need attention, which is 330. And we have a time bar that shows, hey, when was this report updated? When was the last time data was ingested in OMS? As soon as you click on the tile, we take you to the overview blade, and we have sort of this hub and spoke model where on the overview blade, we bring you things like things that require your attention. What is the overall compliance percentage for your security updates, so you can track it with the target that you have. We show you what's the overall percentage for staying current with Windows 10, and also if you're using Windows Defender, what is sort of your how much devices have insufficient protection. So let's look at devices that need attention. Here we have broken them down into two categories, device issues and update issues. For things like if you have any devices that have fallen behind or stuck and are not on a supported build, that's sort of a red flag, and we want to make sure we bring that to your attention. These are devices that will no longer receive servicing updates, and you want to make sure that they're brought to a supported build so that they can be kept secure. If there are devices that are missing multiple, 2 or more security updates, we want to flag that as well, because these are your devices that could be potentially vulnerable to any threats. So we want to make sure that that information is also made available to you. Then we have information on update issues where if there are updates that have failed, we show you that. If there are updates that are in progress, not failed, but have taken a long time, sort of in a stalled state, we want to bring that to your attention as well. So things like if a device is pending reboot, if a device is offline, and certain tasks were completed, but the entire installation didn't finish, those things will be also reflected in these insights. Let's take a look at the devices in this demo that have failed. So you can look through, you can filter, slice and dice through, this report either based on quality update, feature update, and the key part here is you can also look at what are the types of errors my users are seeing when deploying these updates. And in this case, you can see there are, devices that are having some disk problems. There are devices with like either not enough disk space, some disk errors going on in this demo. There are also devices where there's some network connectivity issues where they're unable to reach to Windows Update. There are devices that are having some incompatible app that is preventing them from getting the update, and so on. And then you could do a further drill down if you want. That just filters all the list of devices. If you want, you can export this list to Excel, and then you can bring this information into your own reporting tools, or you can bring this information to your management tools and then drive the necessary action. Let's go back. So let's look at security update status now. So here we try to bring you a quick view of, and this is across all the OS versions that you may have deployed in your environment. We try to give you a quick view of what is the overall install, successful install rate. And across both, we show quality updates as well as security updates. Although the updates are cumulative on Windows 10, we do have a predictable cadence for the security updates, which is the second Tuesday of every month, which is what we refer as Patch B. But we also occasionally release non-security critical updates, which are our Patch D, which is sort of the last Tuesday of the month. And that is the view through the quality updates that you can find if your devices are on the very latest quality update or not. And if you're just purely interested in the latest security update, then this is the second blade that you should be really watching for. And this, again, has a breakdown across all your builds. And the good part here is we're not just showing you here devices that have this update installed, but we're trying to break it down through the deployment process in terms of where exactly are your devices during that deployment process. As in this example, you can see, devices are either in progress or deferred. There are devices with update fail. And in some cases, occasionally we may not get a heartbeat, in which case we will say, hey, we're not yet sure of what the state of that device is. And that would be, reflected in the status unknown. Let's go back, and I'll come back to this again. I want to show you something on the feature update status. So on the feature update status, a similar view, but we look at, this is again, with respect to your, the servicing option that you have chosen. So if you're on a semi-annual channel targeted, then we'll look at the latest release we have on that channel, and then based on that, we will do the assessment for whether you have the current devices or not, or devices are current or not. If you're on semi-annual channel, then we will again use that as the reference point, and then use the latest release on that channel to see if you have the latest release or not. And the same goes for LTSC. Since this data, even though this is a demo workspace, this is a subset of our MSIT data. So that is why you don't see a lot of, there's actually no information for LTSC or the semi-annual channel, but we do have information on the target builds. So let's take a look at the current build we have, which is 1703, and let's look at what's going on with that deployment. So when you click on that, we bring you a perspective view, which sort of again tries to break down if you have, if you're using any deferral configurations for deploying this update, we try to show you, what does that configuration look like. We also try to show you how many devices are, again, in the failed state, and again, similar regions to the one that you saw early on. But then the interesting part is we try to give you even more details on where exactly is, what's the overall state of that deployment. And as you can see, it's broken down into multiple states here. And you can slice and dice further to say, hey, I want to look at what's going on with these progress installed devices, progress stalled devices. And here you can then get to see, hey, there are devices that are sort of in these different states where they need to go either reboot or they need to be online to finish the task that they need to go do. And so you can drive the corrective action with your users and make make them more efficient. Let's take a look at Windows Defender AV status. So here we've broken it down into two things. One is you want to know the protection status of your devices, which is, do they have all the definition updates? Is real-time protection enabled on those devices? And that is what that first blade provides you. And then the second blade is the important view, which is, are there any active threats in my environment? And that goes through, are there threats that have been remediated? And if they haven't, then we also try to bring that information on this blade as well. So in this case, if you want to look at, again, signature out of date, you can go through, you can look at things like, what is the PUA mode on these devices? Have they ever submitted any sample submissions? What is the definition version they're running on, and device names and all of that. So you can actually, again, use this information and drive the necessary action. In this case, you can see there are devices with real-time protection disabled. Even though the signatures are current, your devices don't have real-time protection enabled. Likewise, you can do the same thing for real-time protection that is off. Go take a look at list of all the devices, and then basically drive the action through your management tool to make sure that the right policies are configured on those devices. And this is really helpful because a lot of times, if you're using config manager or if you're using group policy, we've heard this from our customers that we don't get good reporting on the policies when we try to push using GPO. whether the actual policy has been set on the device or not. So this is a good way to also make sure that all your policies that you intend to have on the devices are reflected correctly. Let's look at the threat status here, specifically the remediation failed. So in this one, we try to show you things like, what's the threat name, the ID for it, is there any specific threat action, what is the threat family, and a bunch of other information. So in this example, you can see there are quite a few devices that are just pending reboot. And just a simple reboot is probably going to bring those devices back into a state where the threat will be remediated and the device is going to be clean and those threats will be quarantined. So that's something you also want to have access to. Let me also show you something around list of queries. So we've also provided you with some pre-canned reports that you can easily access at your fingertips, and it comes in the form of these queries. And more than happy to add more if there's feedback around, hey, these are some common things that we would also like to see in our reports. So let's take, in case of Defender, let's take a look at devices that are not assessed. So Defender data is enabled based on, you need to have the cloud delivered protection enabled in order for us to show you these reports for Windows Defender. So in some cases, either devices when the cloud delivered protection is disabled or when the devices go offline, we start to show you this information where we want to make sure you're aware that, hey, these are the devices that are not being assessed by this, by this solution. And you can then go in and look at all the devices and see, hey, these are sort of either they have recently disappeared, which means they were initially seen by the system, but they're now no longer visible to us. You can see devices where it's either disabled by a local policy, or you can see the devices where the cloud delivered protection is disabled by a group policy. If they're using a third-party AV, or you suddenly change to using something else. So those are all the other insights that we will bring you so that you're aware that, hey, these are devices that we are not assessing for the anti-malware compliance. And then you can look at, is this the device I was expecting to disappear from my network? And if it was by design, then there would probably be no action for you guys. Go back and see if there are other queries that I want to show. So update deployment failures. Like in the earlier flow, I walked you through taking a specific update or looking at a specific all-up view of issues. Here you can actually look at the different releases and by their classification, and then how many devices are basically having issues with update, and then you can go and focus on a specific one if you have to. And since our updates are cumulative, you probably don't want to focus on things like this one or this one, because now there's a new update that's already out there, which is going to be what you really want those devices to be on, right? So it's the same thing. You can click on this view, and then it will give you similar information that we saw like the earlier one. So with that, I'm going to go back, and then we'll, no, let's do one more thing. Let's talk about the whole onboarding process, because that is, how do you actually get access to these views? And I think it's important to understand that. It's a very simple process, but let me walk you through some of that part. So we have a marketing website for Windows Analytics. I encourage you guys to bookmark this, or this is where we will be making announcements, or we'll be giving you more information about things that are that are about to be released. It also has access to like you can sign up for a demo. So if you're unsure about, hey, it's going to take me time to get all of this, but I want to actually go try this out with some demo data. You can go towards the end of this page and you can sign up for the experience. Very, very simple steps. All you go do is, you key in some of your information. choose insights and analytics, and just hit accept, review the terms, hit accept, get started. And it will get you added to a demo workspace where you'll see all the different OMS solutions and not just update compliance, and you can start playing with some of those. But let's say if you have never heard about OMS and you're a new customer and you don't have any other workspaces or any other solutions on OMS, you can go basically click on the new customer link. All you have to do is provide a workspace that you want to give. Select the region where you want to actually, so we have OMS available in all these different regions. Select the region that's closest to you. And then you can go create the workspace. Just simple, very, just three pieces of information, and pretty much, the workspace is on its way. The next thing we require you to do is we require the workspace to be linked to an Azure subscription. And I'll get towards the FAQ part where we go into some of the details on what's the implication here. But requirement of an Azure subscription is sort of what OMS asks us. So we do need you to do that. So I'm going to create this workspace and link it to my Azure subscription here. As soon as I do that, you will come to a page with all the 3 solutions that we have for Windows Analytics be made available to you as a bundle. So you can just simply leave the defaults and just add the entire Windows Analytics suite from here. If you want to just go and add an individual solution, feel free to uncheck the ones you don't want, but we encourage you to add a complete Windows Analytics suite so you can benefit from all the insights across all our solutions. So that's, how simple is it to just get the solution sort of added to your workspace. Now, once you have done that, the next thing you want to do is you want to go look at what is the commercial ID that we have created. So the way you do that is, again, sorry, I went fast. You go to the settings, you go to connected sources, and then you go to Windows Telemetry. So in that, you're going to see, you're going to see a commercial ID here. So commercial ID is the unique GUID that OMS Workspace creates for you, and that is how we can identify devices that belong to your tenant or to your organization. So you need to note this commercial ID because that is what you're going to need later to configure all your devices, and I'll show you where that configuration is. And so that is the how simple it is to basically just use OMS, create the workspace, link it to Azure, and then you're good to go. The next thing now you need to do is there are a set of policies that you want to make sure, and I'm going to show you an example here with group policy, but you can use whichever policy engine you have, whether you're using Configuration Manager, whether you're using Active Directory. If you're using MDM, then you can also use MDM CSPs to set these policies. The first thing you want to really go make sure is that the telemetry is enabled on your devices. And the place where you go and check that is you go to the computer configuration, administrative templates, you go to Windows components, there is a data collection and preview builds folder, and then you go make sure the allow telemetry is enabled to basic or higher. And I'll get to both the upgrade readiness and the update compliance requires you to have telemetry enabled at basic. And device health is the one which requires you to have telemetry be enabled at enhanced, which is sort of the next level. So make sure it's either basic or up, and then you're good to go. The next thing, as I said, is once you've taken the note of the commercial ID, you want to actually take that commercial ID. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to use that commercial ID, come here to the configure the commercial ID one, configure this, okay, and this is how basically you would set it through your GP editor that you have on your AD. So those are the 2 things you need. There is another thing you need for Defender, which is Defender data is sent through map. So we need to make sure that that is also enabled. And you can find, which is the part that I was referring earlier, that's the cloud delivered protection setting. And that is found under Windows Defender Antivirus. You go to Maps, you just say join Microsoft Maps, and then you can set this to advanced, and then you should be good to go. So those are the three key things you need to make sure that you're setting on your devices. Enabling telemetry at basic, configuring the commercial ID, and making sure you have set the maps for Windows Defender data. Was there anything here I wanted to show? Probably not. Let me go back to the presentation. So as I said, we're going to GA next month, but right after we GA, we're going to have a new capability that we're going to add to our update compliance solution. So how many of you are aware of delivery optimization technology that we have in Windows 10? Okay, good, quite a few. So again, as part of the whole modern management approach, as you start moving to our sort of cloud-based solutions to manage Windows 10 deployments, the story around bandwidth optimization is delivery is delivery optimization. It's an inbuilt component. It talks to our cloud service, and the intent there is we want to make sure you have the right levers so that you can actually get the maximum bandwidth savings for your environment. And although it's not like, hey, just trust us that that technology is going to work and just go deploy. We want to make sure we provide you with the right insights, so you can actually see how is it working for you in your environment, and if there is anything you need to do to tune it so that you can actually make the, get the maximum benefit from delivery optimization. So we think of things like if you have devices that are connected to our cloud, but let's say your peering is not enabled. We want to flag that right away because you're not going to, that's one way to know that you're not benefiting from something that you should already, you should have by default. So things like that will be highlighted here. We'll try to make sure you get the configurations that you have in your environment for both peering on and devices if you have set it to off. We want to give you the overall information broken down by the different content types, because again, delivery optimization comes into play for not just feature and quality updates, but it gets used for all the apps, whether it's coming from Windows Store or Windows Store for Business. It also comes into play for your driver updates. And I think we are also adding support for Office Click to Run, as well as your LOB apps that you may deploy through Intune. So all of these will be available, and this is one way you can actually track the progress and the savings you're getting through bandwidth optimization. So here's some of the, these questions keep, getting asked. These are some of the privacy principles we want to make sure, you're aware of, which is we have a strong privacy statement online, where we make sure we're not disclosing any of this data that we collect from your devices to any third parties, except as described in the statement. There's no content-based targeting. Security-wise, your data is protected with strong security and encryption. And the control, I walked you through some of the telemetry settings we have. But we basically give you the control to decide what is the level you want to enable, what is it that you're comfortable with. For basic, we have already documented all of the data points. Let me quickly show you that. There is a there is a link, and the deck has the link. But this is it's all documented on our docs site, which is hey, all the different events that we collect for basic. So in case you need to do a review with your infosec team, you should be able to do that. So in 17, we're also adding a new policy. So when you want to enable device health and you want to get these additional events, we are enabling this policy so that we will only collect data that is needed to enable Windows Analytics. So, and these events and these data points will also be documented. For example, like today we have documentation on basic, but we don't have any documentation on enhanced. And this is one way for you to know that, hey, these are the additional events that will be required for enabling device health. So you can also take these to review with your InfoSec and then get them approved for using these solutions. And in terms of transparency, I already covered that. So the next thing is the deployment steps. I think we sort of walked through all of this, but our recommendation is start a pilot. Use whether it's 5, 15, 50, whatever works for you. Get into a pilot. Use all these solutions, evaluate the value, see what works for you, what doesn't, provide us feedback. And then, if things look good and you're getting the benefit from all these insights, plan for a wider deployment, across, all your machines. So I wanted to go through some of the FAQs before we, open it up to Q&A. So the first question is, hey, am I going to, is this going to cost me something? Like, is this, what is the, thing to use update compliance? So it is available to all our commercial customers, whether it's small, medium business, enterprises, educational institutes. It's available for pro and up. And the good thing is we have worked with the OMS team to zero rate any usage. So the part where you have to link this to an Azure subscription, customers get, oh, am I going to get billed once I link my workspace to the Azure subscription? So for Windows analytics usage, no. So you're not going to get billed if you're using purely just Windows Analytics solutions. So any data consumption, any data storage around Windows Analytics is zero rated, regardless of the OMS subscription you go and get. Because OMS has like 3 tiers. They have a free tier, they have a standard tier, and they have a premium. And each tier has a different data retention policy. Like the free, I think, comes with a 7-day data retention. The standard comes with a 30, and then the premium, I think, comes with a year data retention. So depending on your data retention needs, you want to maybe go and get the right subscription. And they have a charge for how many dollars per some gigabyte storage or whatever. But again, you're not going to get charged for any of that because, again, we have zero rated that. The only thing that will influence your subscription is the data retention needs that you may have. But there won't be any cost for using Windows Analytics. I want to make sure that's very clear. The other question we get is, hey, to enable all of this, do I have to install something? Like, do I have to install out of the box, any application, any agents? The answer is no. The data collector component is an inbox component we have for Windows 10, so you don't have to do any additional installs. The other is how much data, like since this is all based on telemetry data, how much data is this really going to upload, and is it going to hog my network? Is there a lot of things I need to worry about? And no, so in this case, we're talking about a few kilobytes a day. There is an initial bootstrapping, like 2 megabyte data that gets sent, but that's where it's giving information for the upgrade readiness solution around all your inventory of your like devices, your apps, your drivers, and all of that. But that's the only for bootstrapping. Subsequent uploads are very minimal. Other misconception is this solution only available when I'm connecting to the cloud or using solutions like Windows Update for Business? And again, I think I covered that, but it's available for everybody. So the key requirements, as I said earlier, was just the telemetry, commercial ID, and the map setting for Defender. Once you do that, regardless of the management solution you use, whether you're using Config Manager or Intune or any other third party or Woo for Business, you will be able to access this solution. Telemetry requirements, I think we covered that. So the other thing we also hear is there a way, like, yeah, this is all good data, but what if we want to get some of this data in-house and integrate with our systems and be able to create additional reports and dashboards? And the answer is yes, you can do it. Like as I showed you, that there's different ways in which you can actually pull this data. You can either export from Excel, or there's also a rich API that Log Analytics provides. It's a search query. It's a REST API that you can then integrate with your solutions. Call the API. As long as you have access to your workspace, you can bring in all the data that's associated with your workspace. There is also a connector for Power BI. So if you want to bring this data into your own Power BI, you can do that as well. There was one other question that because I think we didn't because the demo only had 5K machines, we didn't see that. But the question is around the limit of how much you can export at like any given point in time. And the current limit for a single export is 5K. And we're also moving to the new log analytics backend when we GA next month. And that increases that limit from 5K to 10K. But if there is a lot of data, let's say, that you want to bring through the Excel, you can still do it. You have to just loop through where you can use the skip and top functions to so let's say if you had like 30,000 machines that you wanted to export to Excel and bring it into your environment, you would have to just run that query 3 times within the log search to be able to do that, and you'll be able to get all of your data set in Excel. Again, call to action here is please evaluate this. We've heard a lot of good feedback from customers who have already onboarded this. There are a lot of large enterprises like you who are already using this solution. They're already comparing this with the config manager numbers. They're seeing some good reporting here, good insights into a lot of issues that otherwise they wouldn't have. So feedback, there is a feedback hub we have in Windows 10. We have a category for Windows Analytics and update compliance. Feel free to use that. Provide us any feedback of things you would like to see in the solution, things that might be of more value to you. And the best way to stay in sync with any updates that are happening on Windows Analytics is subscribe to our blog. We continuously update that based on any new feature announcement, any new updates that we push to our cloud. So that's a good way to get all the updates. And for any questions, right, if you're having any problems onboarding the solution, or if you need any help, feel free to reach out at the alias that I have below, which is ucsupport@microsoft.com. And with that, I want to really leave, we have like a little, around like 30 minutes or so, so I want to really leave room for some Q&As here. And but that is what I all had for today. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question about the cost. Is this the same? This is the same telemetry agent and stuff on the client as upgrade readiness, correct?
That is correct.
And you're saying there's no cost for that?
There's no cost for it.
All right.
So
that's not the message that we got from our Microsoft reps before we came. I'm
sorry about that, but there's no cost to using upgrade readiness or update compliance, and neither is it for device health. The only requirement for device health is you need to have a E3 license or up. Right. But with upgrade readiness and update compliance, even a pro license is good. You don't need to have a E3.
Because we have a mixture of E1 and E3 licenses.
Okay.
So are you saying we need to be careful about where we install the agent then?
Sorry, what was the question again?
So do we have to be careful not to install the agent in places where we only have an E1 license?
No, you don't need to. So there's no, first of all, there's no agent you need to install, right? This is all in box.
Well, there's a telemetry setting,
right.
Script that you need to run.
Right. So I think Pro should be, like when you say E1, I'm not familiar with E1. Is that like, should that be higher than Pro?
No, I think that's like web-only versions of 365.
Okay, are you referring to the Office 365 E1 or?
Yeah. So you're saying that doesn't.
Oh, this is Windows. Sorry, I should have been clear. This is Windows Pro or Windows E3.
Okay, so it's any enterprise Windows is okay for this.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi. The question is regarding the agent communication back to the cloud and cloud getting all that and processing all that information. So how fast does the agent report this back to the cloud?
Great
because
question.
One of the things that we have come across with Windows Defender ATP testing is that it takes about an hour when we send the compliance policies to the agents to enable the ATP. The SCCM processes that fairly quickly within about 10-15 minutes because that's how we set up the cycle. But then the computers appearing actually in the cloud for Defender ATP took hour, 2 hours, sometimes even 4 hours. So I don't know what would be, would that be the same here, or is it faster, is it slower?
Okay, great question. So first thing, which is how often does the client upload data to our service? So We have a heartbeat that is happening every 24 hours. That's just to send any changes about any computer metadata, like OS version or if anything new gets installed. But when it comes to the Windows update itself, those data points are sent near real time. So let's say there's an activity that's happening on the box around updates. There's a scan happens. You start getting the the update. Your download is succeeding. All of those events get sent near real time. Now, how quickly do we make that data available to you? In the optimal case, it is around 12 hours or so. And in the suboptimal case, it could be anywhere from 24 to 36. And we're trying to improve that. We're trying to get the latencies down so you can get value of this data sooner and take the corrective action. But for compliance so far, based on discussions with customers, they feel like anything less than 24 hours is still reasonable enough for them to get to know, hey, what is the overall, what does the posture look like?
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. How granular can you be with the permissions to the OMS dashboard? Because I'm thinking a local IT team who just want to be able to view the machines which they manage and to be able to remediate any update problems or something like that.
Is your question around RBAC?
Yeah.
Okay. So should have actually shown that as well. Sorry, my bad. Oh, it's taking me to the new one. Give me a sec, sorry about that. So you can go to settings as soon as this thing loads. And then you can go to accounts, and then you can go to manage users. So you can basically decide who you want to give access to a particular workspace.
And can you give them access to just a particular group of computers?
So here's the thing, when you give access, the manage users allow you to give read-only access, contributor access, or admin access to the entire workspace. So if you want to have, let's say, a hierarchy, where you want to have, let's say, you have different regions or different groups, we don't recommend, but if there's an absolute need, you can create multiple workspaces, right? But then a management becomes a little bit of a problem because every commercial ID is tied to a workspace. So you have to then manage deploying the right commercial ID to the right set of machines or groups so that they're all reporting against that particular workspace. So that could be one option, but it could get a little tedious. So let's say if you had like 6, 7 different regions that you wanted to really segregate the RBAC and make sure the admins in one region only had access to their set of machines, then you would create those many workspaces. Each workspace will give you a commercial ID. You will need to make sure you're deploying the right commercial ID to those set of devices. And I think there's a recent announcement that came from OMS Log Analytics where now they allow you to do a query across workspaces. So let's say if you have a central team that wants to have an all-up view across all these regions, they can still do it by querying across all workspaces and getting a unified view. And then your admins then become local to a particular workspace, and then they're only having access to those set of machines that are reporting against that workspace. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so to get data from those computers, those Windows 10 computers, up into these accounts, so we're a Microsoft partner, and I don't do any on-premise stuff at all. Everything we do is a Microsoft Cloud solution. So
Great. Yep.
Thank you. But what I'm wondering here is when we go in and put, Intune on all these computers, one of the things I haven't heard about an update on this, but when computers are locally domain joined, and then we go put those computers in Azure AD join them, we can't put them into enterprise mode. So one of the things I'm wondering for here, so when we're going and we're putting all of these computers, we're putting Windows 10 Enterprise, Windows Enterprise E3, E5 across all these endpoints. First of all, how is that data getting up into here? That's my first question.
Okay. So again, the pipeline is totally separate, right? So whether you're, again, joining to AD or AAD, as long as you're enabling, as I said, those three things, like the telemetry and the commercial ID and the maps for Defender data, that data is going through a different pipe, like a telemetry pipe to our cloud service. So
when I enabled the telemetry,
correct.
At that point, that's when I put in the commercial ID, so it gets over here?
Correct. So, and if you're already using Intune, we do have CSPs, MDM CSPs to configure all of those. Like you can configure telemetry level using a CSP, you can configure the commercial ID using a CSP, and you can also configure the cloud delivered protection using a CSP. Once you've done that, the data is flowing through, it's coming through our, to our telemetry service, we'll process and we'll make it available to your OMS.
So so then that must have been what you just mentioned there to say, well, the first question pops in my mind, like, okay, well, now I got to go configure all these endpoints to get this going. You're saying if we have Intune connected up, there's some way to use Intune to just set all these things?
Oh, yeah. So Intune, so today in Intune, you can use a custom URI. There's a custom policy template. And I'll point you to the documentation. We have documentation on how you can set these, each of those settings.
Okay.
And what values you need to set. And then you just push those policies out. The next time your devices sync against your Intune, they get them and they're all good to go.
Okay. And then when would I shift from the management we do in Intune to this?
So think of this as providing you with the analytics. The actual management is still going to happen within Intune. Right?
Okay.
So what we are trying to work with Intune is to bring this experience and host it as an extension within Intune. So you don't have to leave Intune console and come here.
Got it.
And then the next step also, just taking a step further is our plans are also to allow you to do in-context action. So when you see these reports and you see a problem, you should also be able to do in-context action right there, which can then under the hood call Intune and push the right policy to your devices.
Awesome. And last question. So I set this up while you were talking over there for our tenant, and I did link it up to our Azure account, and at the top it says data free.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I thought, when would there be a charge, if ever?
Not for using Windows Analytics. Right now, for these three solutions that I walked you, at least, told you about, you don't have to worry about any charge for these three solutions. You just need to have the right license for device health. For the first two, because you guys are, enterprise customers, there shouldn't be any problem on getting access to, any of those.
My question is around timestamps. So I've set up these solutions that I've been using them. Sorry, back here. I've been using them for quite a while as part of the private preview on some of these. So the timestamps, you said that the device will check in every 24 hours. If I'm mitigating an incident or checking for a compliance, say when WannaCry came out, it would have been beneficial for us to be able to see the update compliance as a timestamp of when that patch was applied or when it failed. And right now, all I see from a timestamp perspective on that is the same on every object across the board.
Okay, good feedback. I think what we're doing right now is when we push a snapshot, we take basically all the devices that are active. But during that time, there could be only few devices that have actually reported data to us. So unless you go into every device details, that's where you can see when was the last event that we got from that device. That's a way to know, hey, when was the last time this device really checked with our system and provided us any data. But something we are working to actually even bring that data latency to like a manageable value so that you can benefit from getting access to this data sooner than later.
Okay, and then my last question would be, you mentioned that this is going to be further integrated into the Intune suite so we get to that single pane of glass perspective. Is there a timeline on that?
Unfortunately, there's no committed date, but it is definitely high on the radar for the next thing for us to go work on.
Okay, thank you.
But sometime next year, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just following up on that, so the plan for the future is like in Intune to say, okay, because this is great reporting. Some of us already have reports that say, hey, this is failing, this isn't working, take action. So what's the vision for that to fix these things, proactively, or, because this is great for reporting. What's the fix though? Is there something in the works to
Totally. So I
take
think
action?
that is the next like natural evolution where we just don't want to stop at providing you with actionable data, but actually allowing you to take the action from within the report, right? The good thing about all this is all being developed in Azure and as you know in our Azure framework. So all of these can be easily integrated with other Azure applications as extensions. And then by calling Graph APIs, we can make sure that those in-context actions can be actually achieved. It's just a matter of the time.
Okay, and then the device health. What are the metrics that you're going to be like? It's going to be sort of Windows Update, AV, other things that factor into that device? Like how about like group policy health or MDM policy health things? Because we find those things very useful to know.
Yeah, not today. Today, device health, when it GAs, the focus for the device health is three things. One is we show device reliability. So we show you all the crashes that you're experiencing in your environment. So these are all like blue screen kernel mode crashes. We show you all the devices that are having those over the last, I think, 14 days. That's like the rolling window. And then we also show you which of those crashes are induced because of drivers. Because if you're having old versions of drivers and as you're moving along with new versions of Windows 10, at some point those old versions of drivers are not going to stand, not going to be that reliable. So that's one. Yeah. We are also showing information, I believe, on Windows information protection, so you can be more productive in knowing which are your apps that your users are commonly copying from your work place to another, and they're getting those nagging prompts, so you can actually add them to your whitelist. So there are some things happening around that. But post-GA, there's also work happening on providing application health, login health. I haven't seen on the roadmap yet for things you mentioned around group policy and MDM, but that's a good one to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think the drivers is a great thing, and then maybe even BIOS too, because those are kind of two things that can cause, are you in the latest BIOS, for example?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, two quick questions. One, can you clarify if this is available for servers as well as workstations? Great
question. So server, today we have a filter where we're only showing desktops, but very soon we should be able to add server 2016.
Okay, great. And second was some of the data that is related to the security threats. It seems to have some overlap with Defender ATP visibility. Can you clarify if there's a difference or?
Excellent question. So we look at this information more from a desktop IT persona, and Defender ATP is more of your SecOps persona, if you will, and it is more advanced information on post-breach and threat analytics, and it's also an E5 attach offering. So this is, think of it as something that a desktop admin can use and act on. But if you need something more, then that's where you would go to Defender ATP.
So if you have access to the E5 and Defender ATP, there's nothing here in terms of the threats that wouldn't be available there.
That is correct.
Fair to say? Okay.
That's correct. So, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, just a quick question. You talked about that the basic telemetry stuff is well documented. Is there any plan or time schedule for documenting the advanced or even the full telemetry?
So I'm not sure if we will ever get to documenting that part because there's just a lot of information. But what we are documenting in the next release is the additional events that we need for device health. Okay. Because that is beyond basic, right? Mm-hmm. So the current story is, hey, you need to enable to enhance to get access to device health. But with 17, the next release and onwards, we want to provide you with that additional policy where you can just check that and it will only send additional events on top of basic and which will be documented. So you'll know exactly what you're sending.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yep.
So I was in the Expo Center talking to the config manager people down there, and I was talking to them about my Windows 7 to 10 upgrade that I'm planning, and he mentioned that I could do telemetry and Windows Analytics to look at my Windows 7 machines to see what kind of driver issues I might have or line of business apps issues that I might have. But in here you discussed that it was only for Windows 10.
Okay, so good question. So update compliance and device health are Windows 10 only solutions. Upgrade readiness, because it's targeted more to get you to plan your upgrades, it works for Windows 7, Windows 8. And you need to install some KBs to get the right data collector agent so that it can send data. What we've done with upgrade readiness is for devices that are ready to upgrade, that are green, we have worked with the config manager team where they have built a connector to bring that data from OMS into your config manager console. So you can see those machines that are green and then create a collection and kick off the deployment. But this is more focused on once you're on 10, you get all this information and we can light this. But 7 and 8, we don't support.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
A question on how long does it take before a system goes inactive and rolls off of the reports?
So today our algorithm for monthly active devices is last 28 days. We are also thinking about post-GA adding some settings for you guys so that you can configure things like what is my compliance target. Like today we show compliance based on the latest security update that's been released, right? We want to give you the opportunity to say, hey, I have a target of, I want to get to 100% in 10 days or 7 days. We want you to configure that so we can compare against that and then start flagging things that are not compliant. When we do that, we may also give you the ability to say, hey, use 14 days as my active device algorithm versus 28. So anything that's not reported in the last 14 days, I want that to fall off from this report. So we're thinking about that too.
Okay, and also is there a possible way to decommission systems programmatically as you have systems you're pulling out of your environment that you can just get them out of those reports?
Not today from the report. But I know we have an ability in Windows Analytics. Upgrade Readiness has done that where we allow a admin user input because they have a workflow where you have to tag applications which are important, not important, and things like that. We can think about adding something similar into this to say, hey, retire this device, or don't consider this device for reporting.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else? Oh, one more.
I have a question about how would this work with proxy servers?
Oh, great. I should have added that to the FAQ. So we do have support for if you're behind a user auth proxy. There is a policy you need to go set. I should actually add this, but I can point you to that setting. But we do. So if you're behind a user auth, you can still send data. But the key thing here is each device is sending data to the cloud. There's no like a central aggregator in your on-prem that will collect all this data for all your devices and push it. Each device does send data to the cloud, but it does go, we do have support for user auth.
Okay. And maybe second question around that. Our proxies require authentication. Would that work, or is it anonymous that you send?
No, user auth. So you can actually provide a username password. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
You mentioned that there's a Power BI connector into this. Do you have a document which maybe kind of gives steps by steps about how to start creating a Power BI dashboard which could show this information?
Okay, yeah, I think we may have that information in our blog, on how you get the Power BI enabled in OMS to get the connector going and then bring this information. But I can point you to that.
Okay.
There's a hands-on lab for that as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just curious to know what is compliance being reconciled against? Is it against Microsoft updates or Windows update? Same way config managers, software updates are reconciled against Windows update. Just curious to see how you're doing that.
So again, as I indicated earlier, we are checking it against the absolute truth that is out there that we know we have released to you guys, right? What we are also wanting to add is allow you to input your policies in terms of what is compliance for you, okay, right? And that will come shortly after GA, where you decide, hey, I'm okay, with staying on a N-1 bill within 30 days. So within the first 30 days, you'll still be seen as compliant because that's what your policy says. And if post 30, if you're still on N-1, then we start flagging you as, hey, these devices are. So there's a view of saying how many are not on the latest, and there's a different view of saying how many are compliant per your policy. So we'll be adding that shortly.
So asking the same question a little differently, would I see in update compliance, would I see the same thing in config manager, or if I went out to Microsoft update and had my machine scanned, would I see the same exact information?
You should be, right? Like, because again, the only difference there is with config manager, you have a flow in terms of what you're approving for your environment, right? And the compliance is probably being checked against what's applicable and what's being approved. Here it's more about, hey, here's already something we know is applicable to you and is being offered to you. If you're not taking it, we're letting you know that you're not, on the latest. But we're also, as I said, add that you tell us when are you ready to take it based on the policy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I think we can wrap this up. Thank you guys again.